Hey there, welcome to episode 103 of the Cafe Genius Impresarios audio program. I'm your host, Dan Hugo. We are recording this at around 12:30 p.m. on February 14th, 2025. Happy Valentine's Day. Today's episode, Communication Culture, is about communicating. Imagine that. If you've never listened to the Cafe Genius audio program before, especially the Cafe Genius Impresarios audio program, a small amount of history, Cafe Genius was inspired by Cafe Centro, the coffee shop where startups start, formerly located in the South Park, literally a park, very near the then AT&T ballpark, now Oracle ballpark, in San Francisco. It is where Twitter and Jack Dorsey got to know each other as he was coding it up on his laptop. There are other startups. That's probably the most infamous. Unfortunately, Cafe Centro is no longer with us, but Cafe Centro did spell its name with two F's. Genius, as in the Genius lunches that we used to take part in, gather during the downtown project days here in the greater Bay Area area, downtown especially, to get together and talk about who's working on what, what's going on, what's going up, what's going down. And impresarios are people doing cool things. Entrepreneurs, innovators, maybe a little bit of both. Cafe Genius Impresarios, ideally an interview or conversational audio program. I keep saying I'm going to get back to that. I hope I can. But in the meantime, I have so much to say. Another audio essay about communication culture for this episode 103 on this Valentine's Day. If you are able, hopefully, you have found the episode description for today's episode. It contains the show notes with a summary that I will read and some links. There are 2 shameless self-promotion links for your host. That's me. And 3 additional links that I will describe, and you would be free to click on them and follow them from wherever you have found this audio program. So let's get started. The sooner we get started, the sooner we end, and the sooner we get to our weekend, because it is Friday. Happy Friday. The summary: we have covered the culture of innovation that developed in the real Silicon Valley, over the course of decades, starting in the mid to late 1800s and continuing to, today, and how that compares to the greater Vegas area, the next Silicon Valley, maybe. That's not written. I'm hearkening back. Episode 85, by the way, if you want to look into Vegas as the next ... Vegas. Now we can touch on the communications culture, communication, no plural, which need not look to other places for comparison. It is human nature, or should be. The links, the shameless 2 at buymeacoffee.com/DanHugo, Ko-fi.com, ko-fi.com/DanHugo. No obligation to spend money at either. If you visit the buymeacoffee.com/DanHugo profile page, there are links to all of my audio program productions, GitHub repos, repositories for other organizations and projects, some links to my favorite coffee beans, a little bit of biographical information up at the top, and then above that is a link to the posts section, which is also linked at the very top nav bar of the website, wherein you shall find the Buy Me an Update microcast, micro episodes, 5 minutes or less, posted on Mondays. I think we're on episode 13 coming up. 12 was this week, 13 coming up. Under 5 minutes. What were the topics of the previous week's episodes? What do we got coming up for the week ahead? It's an experiment hosted exclusively on buymeacoffee.com. No charge, totally free. Ko-fi.com does not support audio posts like that, but I do post textual updates concerning the audio programming or other endeavors. Just another outreach. These 2 platforms are used by content creators, open source developers, and other people creating things for an audience or a user base or fans. I've had both of these for a couple of years. I don't really look for money through them. It's just another way to engage and keep in touch with you. Ghosting, a Wikipedia page about ghosting. If you don't know what that is, text me and I won't text you back. It is very common here in Vegas. We'll touch on that a little bit in the first section. But if you've never heard that term, reference. An NSA declassified document on Mokusatsu. It's a PDF. I'll apologize for that now. It's at the nsa.gov website, and since this is 2025 and only February, I cannot guarantee that it will remain there forever. So read it while you can. but it's a recollection, a declassified recollection of the 2 words that are encapsulated in mokusatsu. No, not moku and satsu, but the 2 versions of silence. One is contemptuous, the silence of contempt, and one is contemplative, the silence. Did I say science? The silence of contempt and the silence of contemplation. Allegedly, mokusatsu could mean one or the other. That may or may not be completely accurate. That may have been a little bit of a rationalization. But also a link to the Wikipedia page about mokusatsu. And if you are curious about the Japanese word, mokusatsu, I think is it 1 word or 2? Moku and satsu combined. I suggest that you actually do some real research. Don't stop there. Mokusatsu is probably the greatest cause of miscommunication ever. Anyone who has a significant other, a business dealing, any interactions whatsoever, if you don't respond, what might happen? Vegas loves ghosting. I have mentioned this previously, but I will keep talking about it until someone replies. That's a little joke. Yes, people do this everywhere, but it is unusually prevalent here in Greater Vegas. And I am not the only one. I'm not the only one that thinks this. I'm not the only one that encounters this. The message this sends, if there is nothing in this conversation for me here and now, I'm not going to bother. There are some who ignore this because this is simply the way. So I guess I'm not going to hear back from them. Oh, well, maybe next time. They don't really treat it as anything unusual or out of the ordinary. There are others like myself who might write off someone who takes this solipsistic view. Like, why would I give you my time if you're not going to give me any sort of response or take a moment that isn't all about you? That's the impression anyway. Mokusatsu is a rather infamous vocabulary word from the end of World War II, wherein the word appeared in the Japanese press after the government had received, the Japanese government had received a final offer from the Allies to end the war peacefully. Some will view the 2 translation story that the NSA posits to be less than believable. Historically, there has been some doubt injected into this, but the literal meaning of mokusatsu is silent killing, or generally, treat with silent contempt. Not a great way to leave another person hanging mid-conversation. If you intend to do business and they are not on the same page, surely they will understand that I don't want to respond to them. Maybe let them know that I'm going to get back to them eventually. So it's a common thing here in Vegas. And yes, again, it's common in a lot of places. I think it really comes down to, I'll give a sort of a tangential example. A friend of mine once asked me, how do you know how much to tip? And my response immediately was this: are you ever going to go back to that place? Because that will help determine. If you don't leave any tip, don't go back, because they'll remember you. So if you do plan on continuing a conversation or business dealings or any sort of anything with another person, you should get back to them. You should treat it as though it matters to hit that reply button, return a phone call, etc. If you leave the person hanging, you might get exactly the same in return. It's not good for developing a strong entrepreneurial innovation ecosystem, in my view, and I cannot imagine people who disagree with that. Isolationist or insular silos, maybe not isolationists on purpose, but they can appear that way, but insular, siloed communities that don't communicate well across with other insular communities. It's a known problem in Vegas. I'm not the only one to point that out. I have mentioned this before. Communication, returning an email or a phone call in a timely manner, just in some way indicating, hey, I'm really busy, I'll get back to you. Something. Mokusatsu is not good. Our media options are not great either. The other part of the communication culture that we need to develop here is the press, local media, local special interest blogs, municipal and NGO resources online, that's non-government organization, and so on. They are not great. I'm not picking on any one in particular. It's just that everything here that I've encountered so far, it's WordPress websites, it's mediocre, sort of a lot of our local media is ad-laden, same exact format you'll always find everywhere, page blocks, paywalls, if you like. mostly coverage of sensational or not really expansive in the way that an excited and energized entrepreneurial innovation ecosystem would be covered. Stories tend to be about demolition of buildings, crime, politics, road construction, real estate projects. Yeah, okay. Violence makes good headlines, I suppose, and good cover pages. Headline? What? No, headlines, front pages. If you're into print media, some people still are, but we never really bring to the fore the innovation that's happening by so many people. And while this will not be the next Silicon Valley, spoiler alert, it will be a better Vegas if people know about it. Tracking down a piece of information, good luck. If you want to know who's working on something or who's available to help with something, who is there an organization already doing something, you might come across it. You'll probably come across it from a personal reference, or maybe you happen to be following the right person on LinkedIn, and that would be your luck. How do you know whether your city council person is having a local community gathering? Whether there's an organization already addressing habitat encroachment, for example? Whatever you're looking for, you're just going to have to look for it. Hey, do you know where to find? You know what? I do know where to find out if my city council person is having a gathering. It's not where you would think it would be, and it's not shared in such a way as it's easy to make use of, other than just visiting the website again. Bookmark it. It reminds me of Philips Culture from many years ago. That's Philips, Royal Philips Electronics, I believe it was, in Holland, part of the American business scene during and after World War II. It was an attempt to rescue the technology, fortunes, and innovations of the company so that they weren't taken by or crushed or given just a bad name due to the World War II situation. A lot of brands you would see, this is a total side note, a lot of the brands you would see in America from Philips had new names, so they were not arousing suspicion. Oh, this is a company from occupied whatever. Eindhoven, where Philips originated, was one of the sort of famous battles where the German military forces rolled in and took over. Anyway, the Philips brands like Philishave became Norelco, Philips televisions became Magnavox. There are several others. Interesting times. When I worked for Philips Electronics, and it was Philips Components, was the line of business. What they call them? Yeah, I think it was a line of business. I think there were 7 lines of business, Philips Medical, etc. Philips Components would make OEM products and so on, mostly based in Eindhoven. So we went to Eindhoven specifically to learn who was working on what. What were they working on, and where were they? Why was this? There was simply no easy way to learn this information without getting on a plane and flying to the Netherlands. Not kidding. I almost feel this is the case here in Vegas. This might be true in other places, but in Vegas, you have to know people, or you have to know someone who knows the right person. Yeah, you can look online, but they may not call you back, because who are you? Are you rich? Are you famous? If not, this needs to change. I have to wonder whether this is a result of trailing edge adoption of web technologies for self-hosted content, maybe, coupled with an over-reliance on social media to engage not the local communities so much as the 40 million annual visitors to the greater Vegas area. Instagram and TikTok, YouTube for longer form content, are more popular than hosting a personally branded website, even for influencers, or a website in general. And they may have a website. Maybe Norma Helly has a website. I don't even know. She's on YouTube. She's on Instagram. That's where you find her. I think she probably does have a website. Do resort sites even get traffic? Do people point to resort websites? I guess Google Maps might. You might get them wrong. It might refer them by the wrong name. But the point is, we have an over-reliance on social media, probably because the population of Clark County is about 2.4 million. The population of the tourism flow is about 40 million per year. People that are visiting, I keep bumping into my microphone. Hopefully that's not making too much noise. 40 million people visiting here do not want to look for websites, do not want to follow or bookmark or whatever. Follow in the old sense. They want to find something on Instagram that an algorithm will show, like, oh, here's where you should go tonight. Here's the coolest place to have breakfast in Vegas. Here's some short video reels or a short on YouTube or a TikTok video. What else do you need? So I'm suspicious that this is sort of crept into the general sensibility. I don't know though. So here's a real problem, in my opinion. The LinkedIn crossroads. I've talked about this quite a bit, so much that I'm hoping you're still listening. Don't quit, don't close it. LinkedIn is among the most popular and populous social media sites out there, most likely because it maintains a sense of professionalism, even though it is sliding towards Instagram. It's sliding more and more each day, to be honest. It has even been called the newest dating website. Great. If that's useful for you, great. Hopefully, for what that's worth. The problem, as I see it, though, maybe you agree, you're being fed a lot of algorithmic content. Is it a news feed or a timeline, wherever they call it? I think it's feed. Your feed on Instagram is mostly algorithmic. More and more, especially in the last year, now that they've got their AI tools in full swing in the background infrastructure, more and more classification and matching, so that I am seeing, and I will point out that I really stopped making use of LinkedIn as a communications tool in January of 2024. Why? Because I was on the platform for 20 years and it's gotten worse and worse each year. True story. So if you're in the startup scene, so you're seeing a lot more algorithmic feed, right? You're not necessarily seeing the people you're following, although you see them too, but you're seeing a classification of people that they're following that might be interesting for you and so on. So you're seeing more and more second and third degree connections, recommendations for other reading, try following this person, see what they have to say, et cetera, et cetera. That seems like it might be useful, but it's really just noisy, especially as LinkedIn has brought more and more political posting. I don't want to see political posting. I want to see, like, what are the people that I know doing? So I use it less and less. If you're in the so-called startup scene here in Vegas, you got to be following the right people. If you got to connect to them, you got to follow them, you have to be feeding your algorithm with the right connections as inputs. If you're in the so-called startup scene here in Vegas, there are about 100 people you really should be following or be connected with. Probably connected with is better, to get a complete picture. You'll be if you're connected with them, they'll be following you too. By default, they can unfollow you. More importantly, if someone enters the ecosystem, say I've just moved to Vegas, I'm not following these people. I'm not following anybody here in Vegas. I just moved here. So, of course, the first three things people say: do you know Jamie Schwartz? Do you know Josh Levitt? Have you heard about Tech Alley? Like, those are going to be the end-all, be-all. They are not. But more importantly, so you arrive in the ecosystem. You just got here. And I've talked to these people. There are people that arrive here and they don't know what to do, where to start. This was a huge problem during the downtown project. I spoke to these people specifically as well. I came here to start my startup. I was very excited. I was told, hey, I moved to downtown Vegas. Bring your startup idea, make it happen. And then they got here and they said, okay, good luck. And now there were activities, there were opportunities to meet people. There were things to do, but you were kind of on your own. And on the one hand, entrepreneurs really should be able to deal with that, make the most of it. That's being entrepreneurial, right? On the other hand, there were some people that were not quite ready for that, and they described their feelings about this. So, your mileage may vary if you were around for those downtown project days. So even if you are connected, maybe I've probably removed about 500 connections in the past couple of years. So I'm gonna guess that I had maybe 3,500 or maybe close to 4,000. That's not huge numbers, but for the longest time, I would only connect with people who I actually spoken to in person or met or worked with. Okay, we were at the same company. We didn't interact so much, but we know each other. So even if you're connected and you have a page for people to follow, so they don't have to connect with you directly, they can follow your startup or your project or your organization. I have four or five pages on LinkedIn. I hate all of them. They don't get much traffic, but it doesn't matter if you get engagement because you're just getting likes. Did you listen to this audio program that I posted a link to? No. Okay. Thanks for liking it, I guess. Are you posting often? I don't know why I can't speak right now. So you might have a bunch of followers on your page. Are you paying for anything? Are you boosting? Are you posting often enough? Do your posts hit all of the check boxes to feed the algorithm? Like, do you have an image? Do you have a certain number of words? Do you have a certain number of one sentence paragraphs that are double spaced? If you are not boosting your posts and posting frequently, well, what is the difference between posting and not posting? You're really not getting much engagement. So it sort of becomes you got to keep feeding the beast that is LinkedIn. Like, I'm busy. I got stuff to do. And by the way, those connections in your network, are they responding? Are they engaging or blindly liking? Like, oh, I liked your post. Yeah, so what? In the general case, are you getting some return on your investment of time and maybe money? And what did it take to reach that steady state? Did you have to just keep posting for a few months and gain followers, build a following? Why don't you just go outside and talk to people? That'd be more useful. Now, of course, reaching out beyond local connection is a use for LinkedIn, so I'm not going to totally crush your dreams of being a LinkedIn superstar. I do see more and more there are professional LinkedIn brand development people. They tend to be attractive women who like to post selfies. That's all they post all day. Selfie, 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 selfie. So like I said, Instagram. I appreciate the network of LinkedIn, being able to connect to people that you knew from a former workplace and so on, and finding someone that they know, and you're like, oh, okay, we both know this person. And just this morning, I referred someone to a teacher who I am connected with on LinkedIn for his homeschooled son who's interested in game development. So maybe they'll connect for some after-school engagement with other students. So that's the idea, is to find other students that are working on game development in that age range. I'm like, I don't really hang out with people in that age range. So here's a connection. You reach out when you and your child are interested in doing that or not. So LinkedIn is good for that kind of stuff, in my opinion. But people who spend their life on there, they're either missing out or they're building walls in a little silo. And we already talked about that in previous episodes and briefly in this one. Silos are not great, and we have them. My suggestions. This is why you're here. So my opinion, based on my own observations and casual non-scientific surveys of my peers and others in the greater Vegas area, is that a successful entrepreneurial innovation ecosystem will shift pro-communication, whether it is in deal-making or mentoring or simply engaging in social interactions, where a long-tail approach is adopted, rather than asking, what is in it for me if I respond to this person? Perhaps more along the lines of what might come of my response to this person now or down the road. So assume you're going to respond. Assume you're not going to ghost someone, and then see what happens. And there might be a second or third order effect. I cannot tell you how many times that's happened where, you respond to someone and then somewhere down the road, they know someone and they've mentioned you, or, oh yeah, Dan is always awake. Oh yeah, Dan gets back to you within 5 minutes. Dan is always responding to emails. Dan is always ready on the phone, whatever it is. If you get a reputation for getting back to people, they may get back to you. So far, this has not worked in Vegas. It doesn't work for me, but if you contact me, I'll get back to you, and then you can take it from there. We obviously need better publications that will share information now. What is it? Not. It's amazing how one letter makes all the difference. So better publications that will share information not only for LinkedIn connections, but with anyone curious to know what is happening in the entrepreneurial innovation ecosystem of the greater Vegas area. So the point of this is that you have to be a member of LinkedIn. You have to have an account. You have to be logged in to get the full experience. And then if you're not following the right people, I literally, before I started recording this episode, I connected to LinkedIn just to see what's up, just so I could have a fresh view for my recording, my commentary right now. And I saw somebody that I barely know who, by the way, good at ghosting. Okay, they've shared a post from the UNLV Economic Development Office. Okay, look, a little 2-pager on the Innovation Fund, I think it is. Is it the Innovation Fund? It's something from the GoEd, I think, and they're working with the universities. The Go Fund, whatever it is. Why is that on LinkedIn? Because people will see it. Am I going to see that anywhere else in the greater Vegas area? Probably not. Well, why not? Why doesn't the local media cover this? Why don't they? Because they don't. They don't care. You must be committing a crime or building or tearing down a casino or a resort. You must be a professional sports team, buying one or selling one, or building a stadium for one. You must be developing self-driving cars and having them hit things on the strip. You must be doing something with drones, usually something in the entertainment realm. You must be having a concert on Fremont, or maybe several concerts. Did I mention crime? Because you can still commit more crime before, during, or after any of those. And then maybe you'll get covered in our local media. Or you have to be a trendy new restaurant or bar, maybe not so much a retail outlet, and you'll get some coverage by the influencers, who in some cases, not all, but some cases, are paid by the Las Vegas Convention and Visitors Authority to create compelling content for visitors to the Vegas area. Convention and Visitors Authority. So we need better publications, and we need better ways to be discovered that are not LinkedIn. Later, if you want to know what's happening in the entrepreneurial innovation ecosystem of the greater Vegas area, such as the latest startups, new product launches, various startup scenes, more than one, hopefully, challenges and achievements of the younger and up-and-coming members of the ecosystem, and again, new restaurants, new bars, new retail outlets, new services, new maker spaces, new libraries, new library services. The list goes on and on and on. And I think I described this in episode 85 back in the Silicon Valley days, and I can only attest to the 1993 to 2005 timeframe, or the 1993 to 2001 and 2005 to 2013 timeframes. And I've done an episode about this as well. My 2 tours of duty in the Silicon Valley. The local media, that is the San Jose Mercury News, the San Francisco Chronicle, various websites, because the web kind of got a start there. I used to work at Netscape. I just did. That's the way it is. So I was in on the whole web thing very early on. You would read about not necessarily a murder or a political event on the the front page of a newspaper, like the San Jose Mercury. You might read about the startup that got funding, or you might read about some company news, or a new company moving into town, or a new company leaving town, or expanding into a different town, or who knows what. The startup scene, the entrepreneurial innovation ecosystem of Silicon Valley, which was in 1993 when things really turned around, which is the same time I moved there, by the way. Coincidence? All of that was front page news. And because the culture of innovation had been developing since the mid-1800s, when Leland Stanford sold picks and axes to picks and shovels to the gold rush miners, and then said, "Hey, you know what? I'm gonna build a school here. Where are you gonna build it? Probably in Stanford. I might even name it after myself." But so yeah, that's been since the 1800s, right? So the culture of innovation had some time to grow and mature, evolve. So did communication. In fact, the culture of innovation in Silicon Valley was built around the telegraph and radio vacuum tubes, which were used in amplifiers and transmitters and radio. The father of Silicon Valley, Leland, well, he was the grandfather. Professor Frederick Terman returned to Silicon Valley after his helping out with the radar during World War II. That means the radio detection and ranging, not the character from MASH. That would come later. He would return to the Bay Area, become the Dean of Engineering of Stanford, and become known as the father of Silicon Valley. That was in 1944. So even then, Silicon Valley has been growing and maturing and then redeveloping and becoming the cesspool that it is today over the course of over 100 years. So it takes a while. So we need to, but these innovations and the people that are making innovations and the entrepreneurs and their startups and their failure stories and so on, these all become a part of the culture. So they become part of the news media, the coverage, the things that people are curious about, they want to know about. We don't have that in Vegas so far as I can tell, and that should change. A real asset map would be nice, wherein we might be able to more easily we might be more easily able, how about that, to discover the resources and people we must discover to better participate in the ecosystem. So if I've just moved here, I don't know anyone. I'm going to look at that asset map, and it could be a physical map. It could be an actual, it's a map. or it could be tabular, or it could be searchable. It's not going to be, hey, go find this one or two people or go to this one event and everything will become clear. I need to know what's available. Before I even move here, I should be able to find this information. Shouldn't it be tucked behind a login on LinkedIn and I have to know the right people to be connected to so I can... No. A proper asset map that says what we got and where you can fit in. Asset map is not a new thing. You can look it up. Production by Street. You can look that up. You can search for asset map on the World Wide Web. You'll find the answer. This is a matter of taking it first. So if I just moved into this area, or maybe I've just never done this before. I'm an aspiring entrepreneur or an aspiring innovator, maybe both. So I'm going to be taking, because I don't know what I'm doing. I'm going to be going to this asset map. I'm going to be trying to find people. I'm going to try to find the resources I need. I'm going to look for funding, maybe. I'm going to look for a makerspace because I need to make I need some machine tools, or I need a 3D printer. Might need some colleagues or some co-founders. I'm going to be taking. So finding these resources is important. It's helpful, and it ultimately will get from aspiring to nascent to staying up all night 24/7, trying to get my startup moving and successful, and then ultimately perhaps to a successful exit, and then you can start the whole thing over again. But later, maybe you'll be giving. So you start out taking because you got to figure stuff out. You got to know what the hell what are you doing? How do I do this? How do I start a company? How do I open a coffee shop? How do I start a food truck? How do I do any of these things? But later I can be giving. I can be giving back because perhaps one of those resources helped you, and you can become one of those resources that will help someone else. Imagine that. So how do we get there? I've already discovered that people who have been in the greater Vegas area the longest, and I think it's probably the people that that have come here, moved here, not visit. People that have moved here and have been here the longest, because I think the people that are born and raised are slightly different. I think they're kind of more normal. Because this is where they live. They didn't move here; they've been here. I don't have any scientific data on that, but the people who have been here the longest in, let's call it a startup scene, they've been here for more than 5 years, maybe, like myself. They're least likely to initiate or proactively enable change. I will not claim to be a part of that particular subgroup. This is not to say that none will, but some of these silo properties appear to be contagious. And I know that sounds weird, but just think about it. After a time in this environment, our most optimistic ideals, like maybe they'll return my phone call, maybe they'll respond to that email or text message concerning collaborating and communicating, fade into the background and from memory. And I'll tell you, this is true. I used to really get frustrated, or even maybe even a little bit angry. Like, why did you just end our conversation halfway? Like you didn't. Oh, you got what you wanted, and then you didn't want to bother. Okay. So then eventually it becomes in a contagious fashion. Maybe I won't respond to you if there's nothing in it for me. Now, it's not vindictive so much. It's just an adaptation. Maybe I'm rationalizing. It's an adaptation to the terrain on which you are attempting to move or survive. How much time do I want to invest over and over and over, and how many people who I know are not going to get back to me unless they need something? You can give, and then you'll eventually figure out what the right amount is to give before you say, that's enough. Yeah, it is contagious. I've had this conversation with many people, and it is, it's like this everywhere. Yeah, but have you found it's more like that here? Yeah, I guess so. That needs to change. I have mentioned this many, many, many times also, that a healthy, vital, and viable entrepreneurial innovation ecosystem will need some young people to enable it and get it further and maybe even farther over time. This begins at around, who typed these notes? I'm going to have to get Doge in here to clear this place out. This begins at around the 7th grade or age 12, give or take, and will need 10 years. Not kidding. That's if we start today. 10 years is a 7th grader graduating from college, age 12 to age 22. So give or take, right? 21, 23, 10 to 13, somewhere in there. 10 years, give or take. Graduating from college as an undergrad, more likely, though this does not preclude pursuits of higher education. So they can go on to get a master's, PhD, whatever. Nor does it preclude an entrepreneurial or innovative pursuit before graduation, nor indeed does it imply that college is necessary. You may do something else. It's really about turning an interest or a passion for what you are interested in or excited by, or the thing that you see as a potential for you to build around, pursuing that. And so some people like myself found that in a sort of a college tract. Other people might like a vocational school tract. Other people might just eschew college completely and jump right in. All of those things are fine. So 10 years, give or take, from 7th grade, it's just a yardstick. It's not a rule. It's about 10 years, though. About 10 years to go from age 12, 13 to a point where you're really a part of an innovation ecosystem. And this is just my experience. You could argue with me if you like. You can come on the show and we can discuss it all day. Finally, our existing and experienced entrepreneurs, innovators, and perhaps even local investors, and those with other interesting skills could become mentors or drivers of entrepreneurialism and innovation in their communities and localities. Yes, we have SCORE. Yippee. I have found it to be a fairly substantial disappointment. I don't know if I've talked about this. All of my SCORE engagements, and I've kept it to a minimum, have been either frustratingly disappointing or actually professionally problematic, like a conflict of interest that was not disclosed that I found out about later. Yeah. Vegas. Your own mileage may vary, though. So maybe you love SCORE. Maybe you love SBDC. Maybe you love whatever you found. Great. Maybe tell other people about it and how they can also benefit from it. Or keep it to yourself. In the meantime, being a part of the future probably includes you in one way or another, since you are listening to this audio program. Think about that. That's where I'm going to leave it today, but our communication culture needs work, in my opinion. We tend to be very transactional. We tend to be solipsistic. We tend to be closer to some people that tend to be in silos. And I'll let you in on a little secret again. Not just me saying this. I have been told these things, and I have agreed with them, and I've said them to other people, and they've agreed with me. So this doesn't mean you have to be friends with everyone. You can't be friends with everyone. But it does mean that start returning emails and phone calls. Don't pursue the halo effect, which is probably another show entirely. Consider an investment of your time and energy and responses as a part of the future long tail that you can be a part of. I do that all the time, and I know people don't really put that together all the time. Assume that people know something. I've encountered this more times here than I care to count. One of my favorites, I was working for Intel, going to maker innovator events and acting as a mentor for hackathons. Dozens, like traveling around and staying up for 50 hours and working with people of all ages on various technologies with the ticking clock. And when I brought up the notion of having hackathons here, someone instantly believed that I couldn't possibly know what that was. And so tried to, sent an email to myself and someone else. Hey, Dan's trying to put together a hackathon. And I said, yeah, I've done this like 50 times, man. Maybe ask first. So I don't know if there's just a missing link somewhere or what it is. Maybe you can tell me. Maybe you can come on and we can have a conversation about this. If you do contact me about becoming a guest on this program, be sure and reply afterwards. So that's where I'm going to leave it, though. I have much to say. Part of Initiative 2025, though, is to enable and encourage more and better communication, including more responsive communication. And maybe it'll still be transactional, but at least it will be. And that would be a change worth seeing or hearing. Thanks for listening. Take care. Have a great weekend, or whenever you're listening to this, a great couple of days after. Cheers.